In today's video, we're going to be painting up a female bugbear from the Pathfinder Battles Deep Cuts range. Okay, so what we're going to do with this bugbear is we're going to start off here by using some grimoire purple from Army Painter to paint up the... We're going to be painting up the skirt on our bugbear up first, and the good thing about these models is that they're always primed, so we don't have to worry about doing that step. And we want to give a nice thick layer if you need to, like I'm doing here, is I have it just watered down just a little bit with water, sort of nearly a 50-50 mix, and then I wait for one coat to dry, and then I come back over with a second coat, and it gives just a nice finish. Then once we have that done and all dried up with our two layers, I'm going to come in now with Angel Green, and we're going to be using this to paint up our jersey, or our t-shirt or top. I'm not exactly sure what I want to call this. The top part of our bugbear witch looking woman here, because I'm going for a really sort of like old sort of granny look, so I'm trying to think of what sort of like grandmas and stuff wear to give off that sort of vibe with our paint job that we're going for here on this bugbear. Okay, so now once we have that all dried and complete, what we're going to do now is we're going to come in with Crusted Sword, which is this real deep reddish brown colour, and we're going to be using this to paint our Bugbear Sorcerer or Witch cloak in this colour, which is going to give off a nice dark colour to go with our other quite dark colours that she has on her. And the reason why we're doing this is so when we come to the fire at the end, it's going to be really bright, and it's really going to stand out against all these dark colours that we're placing here on our bugbear female lady. And then once we have that dry, what we're going to do is we come in with oak brown now, and we're going to be doing our bugbear's sort of witch's staff, I guess you call it. Now it does have some little bandings on here as well. I'm just painting over them for now because I want a nice consistent paint job over the whole staff, and then we'll come back and paint in those bits later. Now we have a good coating of paint on our staff. What we're going to do now is we're going to come in with a monster brown, and we're going to be using the monster brown to paint up our bugbear's skin or fur. Bugbears seem to usually furry creatures, so I'm going with the monster brown here, which is a reasonably lightish brown, but it's going to be a real good colour to give off fur, as the paint says that it is monster brown, as meaning monster fur, so I think it's quite a good fit for our bugbear lady here. And we're just being careful not to go over any of the areas that were painted, especially around the hands like I'm doing here. So if you have to, come in with a slightly smaller brush and get a nice tip on it and just slowly go in there. And then of course don't forget, we also want to do the face as well here, and I'm just going to try and avoid the hair because we're going to be painting that up just a little bit later. Then once we have our bugbear's skin all painted up, we're going to come in with dark stone now, and just like I said before, we're saving most of that area on the head of her hair, because we're going to be doing this in this colour here, which is sort of a mixture between a grey and brown, and it's quite a good colour actually. I quite like it for a hair colour in general, so I'm probably going to be using this a little bit later on for other miniatures in a hair colour. And then with our bugbear's hair complete, what we're going to do now is we're going to come in with necromancer cloak, and we'll be using necromancer cloak to paint up her little shoes that she has on, or it may actually be little slippers to really give off that granny look, but I'm just going here with a nice necromancer cloak, which is just a really dark grey to give off just more of that dark colour that we have on our miniature, and they're sort of an ordinary colour for shoes anyway. And now we have all that complete and dried up, we're going to come in now with hemp rope, and we're going to be using the hemp rope to be painting up all the banding and stuff that she has on her staff. And the reason why I'm painting up hemp rope is because I think it is if you have a look at the miniature closely, it's actually sort of like a bunch of sticks that she's found all tied together with some rope, so I think hemp rope's a fitting colour for this. And it has quite a nice yellow green sort of brownish colour to it, so it's quite a good colour to stand out amongst all the dark colours we've already been using on this miniature. And now with that completed, what we're going to be doing is we're going to come in now with moon dust, and we're going to be using moon dust to paint our bugbear's eyes. Now you want to come in here with a really fine tip on the end of your brush or a smaller brush, and you just want to dab it in there, getting it as close as you can. Now for me, what I'm doing is I've sort of gone a little bit wrong here, and I've gotten too much over there, but that's okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in again with another bit of paint, and I'm going to be just making that a little bit bigger, and then what I'm going to be doing is once that paint's dry is I'm going to come back around it again with our monster brown and just paint around this edge to give that eye a bit more shape like it's meant to have on there. And then once we've gotten those eyes to shape, what we're going to do now is we're going to come in with a matte black, and we're going to be getting a super fine point on our brush, or grab a smaller brush if you need to, and we're just going to be placing on there with just a small dot of paint, and then just slightly moving around. And you can see I'm finding this really difficult to do, and you just want to keep attempting this until you get it where you sort of like it. So I've sort of got some real beady eyes on here, so I'm trying to make it go a little bit bigger here, and just trying to get it to the point where I'm happy with it. But you can see here it's being a bit of a challenge, but that's okay, because even with this eye I've sort of mucked up here, I'm going to wait for it to dry and then come back in with that yellow. And then with our eyes complete, what we're going to do is we're going to come in now with some mummy robes, and we're just going to be using the mummy robes to just paint up her teeth that she has showing. She's sort of got like a wide grin, and it's a little bit hard. I can't quite tell if they're teeth or lips, but I'm going to go with she's got a happy sort of scary grin on her face. And then once her happy smile is complete, we're going to come in with a uniform grey, and we're just going to be using the uniform grey to just be painting the base that she's standing on, I should say, sorry. And we just want to give a nice good coverage, being very careful to avoid the places we've already painted. Now this can be a little bit tricky with this miniature because it's all very low to the bottom of that base, so just get in there as much as you can anyway. Alright, so now we have all that done. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be coming in with Agrax Earthshade, which is our wash, and we're going to be using this to wash over pretty much the entirety of our miniature here. So we want to get a wider brush, and we just want to cover her all in this Agrax Earthshade, really getting a good coverage, trying to get it to set into all those recesses and nice folds she has on her clothing, to really stick out the miniature and really, give all that shading, add a lot of depth to it, and add sort of that realism look to it. I'm going with Agrax Earthshade as well, because I sort of want her to have sort of like a dirty clothes look, like she's maybe made them herself, or she's been in these clothes for a very long time. And then once our Agrax Earthshade is all dried and complete, what we're going to do now is we're going to come in with nuln oil, and we're just going to be using the nuln oil to be placing the wash over the base of our miniature here. So just being pretty careful not to get it over the areas where we've already gone over the Agrax Earthshade. Now I'm not sure if I mentioned this while I was doing the Agrax Earthshade as well. I also went over our Bugbear's skin in here as well with the Agrax Earthshade to really richen up those browns that she has on her. Okay, so now that we have all that done, we're going to be coming in with Daemonic Yellow now. Now, we're going to be doing something a little bit different with this, is I'm going to be mixing this with quite a lot of water. It's going to be basically 60% water, and then the rest of it's going to be paint. And I'm placing it on to our fire effect here that she has on here. So I want it sort of quite runny to really get into all those recesses, and I'm basically making the paint sort of a wash. So I can place it on there. So it really spreads across the whole thing, and so you can see just a little bit of that translucent plastic through it as well. This is my first time painting with the translucent plastic, especially in a fire effect, so it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. Okay, so now that we have that done, what we're going to do now is we're going to come in with mythical orange, and we're going to be using this to paint in with our demonic yellow that we have on here. Again, it's going to be the same mix with that 60% water in there to really give off that wash. Now I'm doing something a little bit different with this than all our usual steps, which we paint on our paint and then we wait for it to dry, and then we move on to our next paint. The paint on here, our demonic yellow that we've already placed on, is actually still a little bit wet, And then the reason why I'm doing that is so when we come in with our mythical orange, and because they're all quite wet, is they're gonna slightly mix together while we're placing this on here, and I want sort of like a really good blend between all these colors that we're gonna have here on our fire. And now that we have our orange complete, it's time for us now to come in with a pure red, and we're going to be using the pure red just for the very sort of tips here of our fire, because we want it. Now I'm not doing this in perfect. First half is yellow, second half orange, and then third half is red. I said half, so that doesn't equal right math. But I'm sort of getting it around, and then because we have all our paint still reasonably wet, we can sort of start mixing it in a little bit. As you can see here, I'm just sort of more pushing it around, trying to get those colors to sort of blend together, making them sort of look randomly as much as I can, sort of to try emulate fire. And now what we're going to do is we're going to be coming in with a necromancer cloak. Now when we're doing this with the necromancer cloak, I am waiting for all of this paint that we've all just done to dry, and I'm coming over here now with a dry brush, and I'm just slightly trying to get it on the edges of the flame to make it look like the fire is crackling and coming to life. Now again, this part here is a real added step. You may just want the pure fire on there, but I'm trying to give it a touch more bit of realism by having sort of black smoke effect, sort of looking like it's flickering off here. And that's why I'm doing the dry brush on here. But again, this was a totally optional step. And with that, we have completed with our granny bugbear witch that we've painted up. Now, this is my first time sort of painting with translucent parts on miniatures and fire as well. So I didn't quite get the translucency I was after, but I really do like the fire effect that I had on here. And I also hope that this has been useful for you as well, whether you want to replicate this or try something a little bit different, and just to get some cool ideas from here, like how I've gone with the granny sort of witch feel with it. But with that, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and checking out some of my other videos, and I'll see you all in the next one.